We begin today's stream with a little bit of an unboxing. Unboxing a product or an item that has already been unboxed, but you know, a lot of these model kit boxes aren't actually, you know, sealed up anyway. So, you know, I mean, like, it was unboxed before I opened it. But to begin, I must do the usual things. And I think I'm gonna not update the thumbnail for today's stream because I don't even know what to put on it. Like, what do I use? I don't have a model kit thumbnail. I gotta make a lot of thumbnails. I gotta make like a laundry list of thumbnails for use in my streams. But for now, we'll keep it simple. For anybody coming in on the replay, you know, as always, I request considering hitting that like button, subscribe button, that button, this button. Yeah, I got no thumbnail image. Like, if I look at my main, you know, screen right here, I got, like, you know, me in a video looking like Wilton. I gotta practice my Wilton voice if I ever do a, you know, redo of that performance. So yeah, we're gonna keep the thumbnail graphic simple for today. And then maybe one day I'll update it. So anyway, I have a real treat for you, the viewer. For viewers like you. In fact, I'm gonna record this. Yeah, I got a real treat for viewers like you, and I think the best way to show it is to bring a camera down from above and there we go. Get a nice video preview. And we just gotta loosen this up and, you know, tighten it up again. And speaking of tighten it up, this ship is sort of related to the story of the Titans and how they got started. So this will be a real fun one here. Man, it got warm outside. I don't mind it one bit. No, sure, it could be like adventurous to go out in the winter, ride your bicycle with some ski goggles, pretend you're an astronaut, right? I mean, not that I do anything like that. Me? Nah, never. Nah, I really don't. I really don't. I swear. Okay, I'm pulling everyone's leg here. So anyway, if you would excuse me for just a moment while I get this thing lined up here. Let's see if this works. All right, there we go. And there's the model. And then if the stream is now over. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so yeah, you know, I gotta say, they got these like downward-facing webcams that have like a wireless unit, and those are kind of interesting. But I'm not comfortable with the technology. Secondly, I have a ring light right here, but if I turn the ring light on, you just get to see a reflection of the stupid ring light. So luckily, I upgraded the crap out of my lighting. Still kind of, you know, tweaking it, because one problem I had with lighting, and this is a bit off topic since we're supposed to be showing a model off, is that it just, in fact, there we go, my rear light is, there we go, disrupting the chroma key. So if I leave my camera in automatic mode, it does things it never did before, which is expected, like it's using a higher shutter speed, and it's doing the lowest ISO number it could possibly do, meaning that you get the least amount of noise and graininess on your image sensor on your webcam, on my webcam, but it can't go any lower. So, you know, it's like it's definitely like a mind bender in terms of, you know, just getting the settings that are optimal dialed in. And I'm not even done positioning the lights. Like, you know, it's not the final position, but that's a different topic. But the holy grail of chroma key lighting is illuminating your back, illuminating you separately, and then having an additional backlight. And that was the newest thing I learned. But let's get back to this, and hopefully we won't need a halo light. We won't need my ring light because you know, I mean, like, the room is so bright it looks like a nuclear flash. Alright, so this is the Mobile Suit Assault Carrier Albion from Mobile Suit Gundam 0083. Stardust Memory, also I think referred to as Last Blitz of Zeon. And this is a beautifully painted example of it, although this kit is not painted if we use Google Translate, we can find out what this says. I'm gonna guess it says metal parts. Just taking a guess. Let's find out together what it says, because I think it's important that we know. So we're gonna open up Google Translate, and this will almost certainly detect the language automatically. It's actually some serious black magic. It's pretty cool. All right, so I'm gonna take a freeze frame, then I'll put it in focus. All right. So first, let's let it. Okay, good. Metal parts using cuff. I don't know what that means. Metal parts precisely reproduce the catapult deck. Okay, it updated that in the middle of the like translation, but that's cool. So these are actually metal parts here. They come in like a little envelope. High detail. Reproduce details such as around the vernier, which I think is like it's a type of thruster. A vernier is a type of thruster, as I understand it. Let's keep going here. Mini figure, 2 1700 scale mobile suits included. Now this is great for me because it means that we can use these as a point of reference, figure out how big a human being is, and based on that information, we can figure out how many people, or I mean, how big this model is. Like how many, you know, we're going to get to a topic in a moment, but basically, in fact, we'll touch on it right now. So this particular class of ship, the Pegasus class ship, sometimes I guess you call it a mobile suit assault carrier, has a gravity block. And that means it's a, you know, essentially, as I understand it, in my experience with Gundam, the term blocks refers to, like, you know, airtight compartments on these ships. So in the episodes or the part of the movie compilation of the original Gundam series, when they are getting the ship repaired in Jaburo, they, you know, refer to like pressure checks on all of the, you know, blocks, and basically they're checking to make sure that the entire ship, after being thoroughly repaired, can hold pressure in all of the sections and yada yada yada. So anyway, the thing is, the gravity block, okay, it's clearly an airtight section of the ship, and just from how it's depicted in the animated series, it has gravity. And we know this because we even see in Gundam 0083 Nina Purpleton treating injured people, conducting triage essentially in the gravity block, and it looks like a corridor or a hallway with rooms along the sides of it. Presumably there would be maybe 2 floors to this gravity block, you know, basically opposing one another. Maybe you climb a ladder, take an elevator that flips over, I don't know. But in fact, they do take an elevator into the gravity block, but they never actually say the gravity block is located here or here. And for a while I've thought about it. I said, well, if we have a cylinder between the 2 mega particle cannons from here to here, then yeah, you can put a gravity block there, but it's not a continuous cylinder. In fact, you know, I already started construction here. I'll show you what I got. Because I literally was going to a friend's house yesterday, and as I'm going out the door, I see this thing sitting outside, and I'm like, I'm gonna start on this tonight. And I was able to even, cool thing is, because I have to paint it, it's not painted, by the way, I'm able to like sand it without doing wet sanding. And actually, it seems that this type of sandpaper doesn't actually require wet sanding, or maybe it's just the way I'm using it right now. But in any case, you know, as long as you just get rid of the nibs, you can paint over it and, you know, cover up any minor imperfections. So right now what we're looking at is, and I'll goose up the light if that helps anybody see this. That does not look pretty at all. Yeah, I don't know if that light actually helps at all, but what I want to underscore is that this part actually has a seam going down the middle, and I used Tamiya thin cement to weld the plastics together on the left and right side of this bit, and sanded it. As it turned out, I sanded way more of that part than I actually needed to sand, although I'd say over here, like, you know, once again, the paint's going to cover it up, but here's an area here where you can see the seam line And then right below it, you could hardly see any seam line. And so that's an example of the Tamiya cement doing its job. So obviously, you know, this is looking like the picture. I mean, you know, like I call that a success if I have like half of the ship correctly assembled. I mean, you know, and it looks like the half, it's less than half the ship, of course, but, you know, it's basically half the ship. And, you know, I have questions, but I think there's going to be some answers that'll be forthcoming as I read the instructions that I can't read, but, you know, I could sort of figure it out by the pictures and then translate what I actually need to know. So far, we assembled this piece here, which is comprised of a top and bottom piece. So that's what you're seeing here is the top and bottom here. This bit here, where you have like what looks like it's part of the Minovsky craft system, which allows it to hover in, you know, Earth's atmosphere. And, you know, obviously we need to maybe compress it more or something like that, but I decided to leave it alone because it's not fully assembled yet. You know, I just have it roughly half assembled so that I can see what is taking shape, how it's taking shape. And so right here, I believe this might be a hollow compartment where the, you know, you might store additional mobile suits. I had thought that. I'm not really sure. I guess once I finish assembling it, I'll get a good look at all of the dimensions, because now I'm thinking about it, I'm saying, is there room to store any vehicles here? Or does all of the storage and mechanic work happen over here? Do mobile suits get transferred from here to, you know, here? What I can say is this does have a catapult. So in the original Gundam series, the White Base, which is the name of the ship, the first Pegasus class prototype, has basically the catapults right inside these sections here, and that's how you're launching your mobile suits. But in Gundam 0083, the launch catapult flips open, so you got like an elevator from the hangar deck, flips open, and you got your catapult above this, and then I believe you would conduct your landing through here. Or actually, there is precedent, I mean, at least in the animated series of Gundam 0083, that, yeah, you can land through, I think, this side door here. I want to say it was this one, but I'm not sure. It was one of these, and they had to pull out a giant net in order to facilitate, you know, for the mobile suit to land safely, because it was heavily damaged. You got your mega particle cannon, which apparently, I don't know if that pops out or if it's more like you remove a cover and you swap it out. Yeah, once again, we got the nuclear Gundam right there. You know, it's got a nuclear bazooka, which is like one of the more interesting exotic options out there. And getting to like scale and proportions, well, we could see it right here. We can see the mobile suit in the cockpit is essentially in the chest, so you can figure out the you know, the scale. Also, we do have a concept of scale, because I mean, look, that's a window over there, that's another window, and eventually we'll have the bridge. Oh yeah, actually I do have the bridge floating around in here. I should definitely investigate that. And I think we might do a little bit of assembly work right here, right now, while I'm sitting here talking about this new kit I got. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, here it is. Okay, we got two. When I say a gun turret that is here, then this is another gun turret. And this one is like, oh god, I can see it like coming apart. Yeah, like I'm afraid to touch that piece. I might just put like some of the heavy cement on it right now, but man, that is a delicate piece right there. Like, unfortunately, that piece is going to come off on its own, most likely, unless I'm keeping an eye on it. So, I mean, well, we'll see. So, there's the bridge module right there, sliding into position. So, we know that people can look out the window on the bridge. The bridge is considerably taller than the human being standing behind the window, and there's an entire bridge inside of here. And so we could just say that's a deck. And you got a deck below it, or maybe you have some kind of shaft. In fact, there's another window right there. So another window that people can definitely walk in front of or behind. And so presumably there's some habitable space here. I'm also presuming that it is a zero gravity space when in space. But if this area is not hollow for storage of mobile suits, then our gravity block could very well be in here, because I mean, what I'm trying to do is, in order to locate the gravity block that I cannot find on any schematics. So trust me, I've looked on the schematics and it wasn't there. I would guess that the gravity block is just going to be any place where you could squeeze a spinning cylinder. So if we can get like a motor, and they don't have to be big, you know, and we can squeeze that motor inside. Just making some adjustments over here. Along with like a hollow cylinder, that's your gravity block. And so based on like just the size of the walking areas, the windows, I think you could fit a gravity block in quite a few places. And in the middle of something like this, it would probably be more ideal. It looks really thin considering this is the bottom of the ship right here, and we got to build not a whole lot of things on top of this, at least in the middle section. But even this slim area here has a lot more going on in here. It's not that slim after all, you know what I mean? Like compared to a human being, there's some space in here. But anyway, enough fixation on, you know, where does the gravity block go. But whether or not they outright stated it, the gravity block is important when it comes to treating injured people. I mean, like in the Expanse, they explicitly state it because of the whole, you know, like blood clotting, or not blood clotting. You know, essentially zero gravity, internal hemorrhaging does not heal or something like that. I actually don't know what the actual science on that is, but it sounds good. Alrighty. So let's see, I did A6 and C2. Now, C2, C1, and C3. So let's see what we're missing here. Okay, we got our alphabetically ordered parts runners. Here's our C section, and we need to get a C3 out. And so we can do that any number of ways, but what I've been doing is using, like, sometimes if I'm really OCD, I'll use two sets of nippers. I'll use this set of nippers to like get the initial cutting, and I'll leave like a nice big nib on it. And then I'll use the fancy nippers, which, I mean, I don't know if these are the fanciest or what, but they seem pretty capable. These will give me like a clean cut, and in some areas I don't really need a clean cut, you know, like this area is probably going to be hidden. I just need enough you know, cleanliness here that when I attach other parts, they fit in a sufficiently flush manner. And I try to shave off the excess nub, like to get it nice and flush. And cool thing is I don't have to worry about pressure marks. I don't have to worry about any of that weird stuff. So, you know, it's like we're painting over it anyway, which is a minor nuisance. I still haven't decided how I'm going to paint it, but probably going to use, like, I like enamel paint. But I have these Gundam markers that are quite fine, and I believe that we can do pretty good with the Gundam marker, pretty well with the Gundam markers, and then we would just simply coat it or cover the areas with a clear coat. And I do have some, I even have Gundam markers that have a clear coat on them, and so we got options here. It should be worth noting that some parts are gonna be hidden. Some parts will be you know, in other words, you don't have to always get your nips off. You don't have to get your nibs off, whatever you want to call them. You don't have to cut those off in every little place if you know that an area is going to be hidden. In fact, I did like a lot of extra work on one part, and then I was like, wait a second, this is hidden. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're like doing your cleanup work. Sometimes I'll do the cleanup anyway because I want it to, you know, go together nicely. Oh, and I forget. I always forget. Well, not always forget, but I bought a gun primer balancer, and well, let's test it out right now. We have a little nib right here. Whether or not you can see it, I don't know. We'll try to reveal that nice and closely. Yeah, there's a nib. Now, oh yeah, it almost works instantaneously, it seems. If I'm even using it correctly. I may or may not be using this correctly. But one thing about the gun primer balancer is it's not gonna polish it, right? So you're gonna be left with a rough finish, and depending on like my purposes here, that's probably fine. And this might even save me a lot of time using other types of sandpaper, so I don't have to go and do like, you know, multi-grit sanding. But on the other hand, I can't wait. I look forward to getting my hands on the gun primer polisher. That's going to be where I think it's going to be more fun to use. You know, being able to get like a rough sanding and then go straight to polishing, like, and it actually works in one shot. Like, that sounds amazing. Can it really eliminate the need to use like 5 different sandpapers? I don't know. Now these came in a 3-pack. I believe they shipped from Korea. I don't think they're designed to aggressively remove nibs at all. I think it's mostly like after you remove the nib. So keep that in mind. I'm continuing to use a glass file, as you can see. This one's actually a little damaged, which I'm fine with because you know, I'd rather run the damaged one into the ground at this point and keep the other one on reserve. And I gotta say, I'm not super happy with the glass files as a substitute for, you know, the normal way of doing things. Like, I don't even know what the normal way of doing things is, but yeah. And it looks like going forward, I'll leave this out of the I'll leave this out of its box in order to protect the bridge module, or I'll put it in its own box. And even now I'm considering like if I should do something with this part of the bridge module, like up here. Like, I can clearly see this bit getting undone before my eyes, and so I can maybe remove it now in order to you know, have some control over how it goes back into place. We can even maybe attempt to melt and weld the plastics together right here and now, although I don't know if that's the wisest thing. But this piece here is like on the verge of coming off, and I might even just have a sacrificial paintbrush right here, because I don't want to I don't want to use this brush. I mean, look at that brush. That is not a precision brush right there. I'm also going to open a window, because that stuff seriously smells of something. Now, how can I apply glue to my brush? Well, we can try this. Yep, see. And this is some, yeah, this is some stuff right here. And yeah, so one of these gun turrets or antennas, like, I don't even think it's a gun turret. I think it's a straight up antenna. is like off, is bent a little bit by design. All right. Now, whether I did that right or wrong, I'm going to leave it like that because this piece of plastic on the left is pretty rigid. It's the one on the opposing side. And yeah, this is a sacrificial paintbrush. Unless it can magically be washed off using alcohol, I'm not going to hold my breath hoping that can be the case. But we can potentially assemble the remainder of the bridge module now. Should I even be doing that? Like, I mean, I definitely want to be mentally, physically prepared, mentally and physically prepared to, like, to take parts up, off of this and put them back on for subsequent painting. Because even now I'm seeing, like, this part here clearly isn't doing what I want it to do, right? You know, so maybe I gotta remove this. Let's see, I think it does this slide forward or back. I believe that slides, yeah, forward. It's actually, it's locked in there right now. Oh wait, that gives me an idea. So let's remove the hangar bay, or the mobile suit flight deck, whatever you want to call it. And see, okay, that goes forward. That's interesting. Now we're gonna take our bridge module, along with anything else that it comes with. I'm gonna just kind of gently snap that into place and see. Oh, wait, actually got to be careful there. This actually looks like one of those impossible puzzles. Luckily, I didn't glue any of this stuff into place, so we can remove a lot of things or nudge them out. So we're gonna do that right now. And for anybody tuning in the middle of this, yeah, right now I'm working on a mobile suit assault carrier model kit. This is the ship from Mobile Suit Gundam 0083, Stardust Memory, also sometimes referred to, as I understand it, as Last Blitz of Zeon. And this is a Mobile Suit Gundam movie that, yep, okay, I see, it was the order of operations, so it's a matter of put the right parts in the right order and everything should be fine. Hey, what up, pop culture mechanics? Check out my cool Albion model. I'll show you it partially assembled right now so that you can see that it's actually taking shape. It's actually got the right stuff in the right places. So let's take a look at that. So you got a reflection of my stupid ring light. No, I'm kidding. It's all right, but so okay, that's the Albion from Gundam 0083, as you know. And I have a mobile suit flight deck here, but first let's put the rest of the ship back in. Okay, so far so good. Now we're going to put half of the hangar decks on. And then we're going to show you for reference that we have that that's definitely looking like the box there. I mean, I know it's not exactly the box, but I mean, we're seeing the thing on the box is totally the thing I'm holding in my hand. I mean, that is definitely the thing. And, you know, we're missing the engine pods. I mean, look, we got the dual mega particle cannons. We got the albatross wings. I don't know, I just made up a name. But an interesting topic that you might be able to chime in on, or at least put your brain into thinking about, is where is the gravity block? Think about it. Okay, so, well, first of all, like, okay, original Gundam series and 0083, there is a section of the ship that has gravity. It generally is depicted as a hallway or corridor with various rooms lining either side. It's presumably going to be 2 decks unless one side of it, the opposing side to the floor, is maybe used to store liquid or balance things out. Yeah, most of it snapped together, pop culture mechanic. The only glue I used was like when I put these halves together. So when I put like this left and right half together, I used a thin cement And I didn't go crazy with it because I know I can fix it. You know, when I do the final painting, I can do whatever corrections I need to do to it. In fact, it looks like I'm going to have to give this some love right here. You can see that little overhang there. And this part, I don't want to unsnap this part anymore, right? I've already snapped this part together, but this piece is inside of this piece. And this little hood ornament area is, I think, I'm trying to remember how it went. But yeah, this is like its own, there's actually a pretty large piece inside here that this, in fact, yeah, this top bit is part of this bottom bit, and this top bit in the middle is just kind of sandwiched between it. Sort of like has a hole in the top and it sits on top of this box. So this bit here, you'll see that we can see the seam here, which is no problem. This one's flat, I can paint over it. But you can see how the seam is nearly invisible here, and that's because I used the thin cement to basically weld the plastic together. So anyway, the gravity block, it's got to be a cylinder long enough to be a hallway. And the good news is we know how big a mobile suit is, right? So when I put this together, we'll have the mobile suit, and it's going to fit on the catapult, and we'll be able to see that mobile suit can come out standing on top of this little square, and that it can land over here, and that you can enter the mobile suit through one of the side doors. So I got to double check, but the schematics weren't always clear, and the gravity block was definitely not in the schematics I've looked at. But assuming this is not a hollow space, because this could be a hollow space for, you know, maintenance and repair of mobile suits and heavy equipment, I'm assuming that there's going to be hallways or corridors in here, but there may be a gravity section in here. I used to think it was nestled between the mega particle mount cannons, but I'm realizing now it's not a continuous cylinder across. So white base, maybe that's where they'd put the gravity block. But also, I'm realizing that the gravity block doesn't need to be that big because we're talking about 1/1700th scale here. So there's probably, I'm hoping that as I assemble this, I'll be able to hypothesize a few places where I would, you know, consider, you know, where would the gravity block be? I'd be able to find a few places where it belongs. That is my hope in working this endeavor. So yeah, and Pop Culture Mechanic says, the gravity block. I don't know a lot about Gundam, sacrilege, but I would think it would be under the bridge of the ship where the crew sleeps. Oh, that's a good point. So is it important to sleep in gravity? Well, definitely medical stuff. So in Gundam 0083, and I believe even in the original series, but definitely 0083, they're conducting triage, medical treatment triage in the gravity block, and that makes sense from that point of view, you know, like with hemorrhaging and, you know, medical stuff. Sleeping, I wonder now, but yeah, you know what, I mean, crew quarters, and there is an elevator that goes from the bridge to the gravity block, so, you know, it could be directly under the bridge because they just take the elevator, so actually it could be nestled somewhere in here. You know, that's a possibility. There's plenty of room because we know that this window is a place where you could walk in front of this window or behind this window. It's like taller than a human being. And so it stands to be reason you got one deck here, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it doesn't mean there has to be 2 decks underneath the bridge per se. It could be like spaced out equipment and machine spaces, but you get my drift. So, yeah, and then we just, you know, there's some parts here that like do different things. So I think this is part of the Minovsky craft. It creates a cushion of Minovsky particles between the ship and the ground to allow it to hover. I do have a problem with like the Minovsky MacGuffin device because sometimes it's just troublesome. You know, it's like, okay, we're using Minovsky particles in a beam saber to cut metal in half. Then we're going to use Minovsky particles to create interference on the radio and radar systems. And then while we're at it, we're going to use Minovsky particles to, you know, like, to hover. And it's like, should I or should I not be standing underneath that ship while it's hovering? You know, it's like just maybe I'm overthinking it, but you know. So anyway, it says here to do this. No, I'm kidding, I already did that part. So, and actually I started on the mobile suit deck early. So we're going to remove the mobile suit deck for now because we started on that too early. And we're just going to follow along. So right now, we got the boxy thingamajig here. Now I got to do A1. Looks like we already did this out of order. And I think I even have a part here that does something important next. Or, yeah, it actually, yeah, it goes behind one of the mobile suit decks. All right. So, In fact, is this part of... Oh, yeah, this is the opposite side, I think. Let's take a look. Let's see. What is this? Maybe I don't remember now. Oh, yeah, I think that is the opposite side. I didn't even realize I had that much assembled. Okay. There we go. We got, like, that right there, you know. So, anyway. Let's keep rolling with this here. Alrighty. Number... A1. Oh, yeah. I'm supposed to do A1. A1 steak sauce. Who puts ketchup on this steak? I mean, I don't. I'm just curious if anybody does. I'm not going to judge you, I promise. Alright, so same cutting routine. I mean, it's nothing special, but we're just going to give it a nip. That might have been a bit of a harsh nip right there. And these, remember, I'm not cutting these parts flush because I'm going to flush cut them afterwards. Okay. Okay. Where's this thing here? Alright. Magical flush cutters. Hopefully they give... Yeah, it's pretty flush, actually. That's not flush at all. There's no room for the flush cutter. Alright, we'll use this. This is exactly what this glass one is for. Now, they said it rinse these off with water, but who's sitting next to a sink when working on their model kits? You know what I mean? Maybe some people have like a basement with a slop sink in it. Oh, I'm resurrecting my 3D printer. I mean, I don't have to do anything to resurrect it, but, you know, I turned it on. In fact, it was in standby mode, so I rebooted it just for good measure and updated Octopi, which was already, you know, willing to automatically update. So I can log into the Raspberry Pi from my phone or from here to fire up the 3D printer right now. But really what I need to do is like sit down in front of it, level the printer bed. We're using a glass file to get rid of this nib here. And then once I level my printer, I can then, I can, you know, physically level it. Oh God, I got a scratch on that. Hopefully this is one of those hidden parts that don't get seen much. Because that's the thing, like with the glass file, you gotta be real careful, somewhat careful with the edges of them. Now, it's not really the end of the world, because I mean, this is why I invested in a variety of sandpapering products. Only thing is that I did misplace my 200 grit. I have another 200 grit here actually, but when I went to my friend's house yesterday, I was going from 120 grit straight to 200 grit, a 400 grit, and it wasn't a big deal. It worked out, but you know, I normally wouldn't want to go straight to like, you know, from 120 to 200, I mean to 400, but for like this type of part where we have a rough scratch, yeah, it's fine. Hey, what up, Slim? And you get a ducky, and you get a ducky. Hey, I don't know if Pop Culture Mechanic wants a ducky, but so if Pop Culture Mechanic's here, Slim and him is playing this relaxing game involving like basically like rubber duckies in a pool, and he's been keeping some of them unnamed so that he can name them after various YouTube viewers. And if you tune into Slim Nim channel when he's playing a ducky game, he might name a ducky after you. And then that'll be like, in a way, free promotion. Because people will be like, oh, I want to see who Pop Culture Ducky is named after. Okay, maybe not. I'm not going to guarantee that. Everyone gets a ducky. You get a ducky. You get a ducky. And everyone gets a ducky. I actually enjoyed that part of the new Ghostbusters movie with the Leslie Jones. I didn't mind that old joke. Even if, like, I didn't enjoy the movie on the whole, and I thought it's freaking stupid. I thought Leslie Jones' humor was okay. But then a coworker was showing me an SNL skit, and I don't know, they were being semi-racist on white people. They weren't really being racist. It's just that I was thinking about double standards, and so I was like, I downvoted the video for that, and he's like, oh, come on, man. I'm like, yeah, man, you're right. Maybe I'm being hypersensitive, but I'm just under the observation that sometimes there's double standards, and I don't know. I just feel like I gotta vote accordingly here. Maybe I am being too sensitive. Well, that sounds like fun. Little mechanic ducky. Yeah, especially if it looks like a mechanic. So one of these duckies look like Gene Simmons from Kiss. That was kind of cool. I think it even played the guitar sounds when you click on it. Why am I still recording it? It's gonna eat up a mad gigs of space recording this shit. No, it's okay. I don't really even need to be that thorough with the sanding, but if I genuinely sand, you know, from like all of the levels of grit here, I could bring back the luster, the shine. But at the same time, it's not that important. I mean, we're gonna do this one out of scientific discovery, but normally I would leave it alone. Actually, who am I kidding? I want to paint it evenly. What, a scratch I made by accident is gone. That's good. There's a metal steam duck. A metal steam duck. Oh, wow, like steampunk. So yeah, I gotta actually end this stream. When I end this stream, I'm gonna do prep for Monday's show, because assuming Punk Waddle is still available for it, I gotta be ready for Punk Waddle. And tonight's the last night I can prepare for that show, because I know it's gonna happen. I'm gonna go prepare for the Monday show tomorrow. I'm gonna be exhausted from work, and then come Monday, I'm gonna say, oh, I'll work on it while I'm at work, and then like it'll get busy at work, and I won't. So, yeah, I gotta like make preparation. This part looks like it go in either direction. So yeah, you don't have to use glue on these, but there are parts where it doesn't hurt to use glue. What I like to do is maybe like see how much of it snaps together properly before I add any glue to it. Yeah, this part I don't think can be put upside down, but I'm not really sure. I'm about to remove it just to check it. Yeah, this part looks like it can go either direction. It depends on how this part gets... Oh, it's in there. Ouch, that felt like a Lego. Just now, the way I squeezed that part, it felt like stepping on a Lego. If that amuses anyone. Alrighty, so let's see here. Now, it looks like it's starting to tell me to get... the mobile suit deck's ready, if I'm reading this correctly. So we got this entire module assembled here, basically. Now it's asking me to do the left and right mobile suit deck. So I already did one of them. So is that really almost done? Okay, there's more stuff on the back. Well, I guess we're going to work on opposing one of these here. So we got this. And when I first opened this model up, I think I skipped to here. So I'm going to go here now and work on this part. So let's see here, A17, A12, D9. Okay, so A17. A9. A13 and 16. Okay, so we already got that part. So we're going to do B15, D9. So let's do B15. We got two sets of Bs, because I guess it's a mirrored part. So you would have two sets of Bs for any part that's duplicated. So, I gotta use the other B's because it looks like I already used that B. That's it right there. Okay, that's B15. D9. Do I have any more B's before I go to another part? B11. Alrighty. D9. And yeah, the metal catapult, I'm not putting the catapults down until I, you know, see more completion, especially considering the catapults are kind of interchangeable, so I'm not particularly comfortable messing with the catapults. We're gonna need this part here. That's a letter C. D9, 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 B1. So I hope everyone's having a fine Saturday today. Mine is basically a Sunday for me because Saturday is the day before I go back to work. So it's depressing like a Sunday, you know, when you're a kid and you got school on a Sunday and you're like, or you got school on a Monday and you're like moping around the house. On the other hand, it's pretty quiet on Sundays. So, I mean, unless there's some special planned drama, it's usually very quiet on a Sunday. But then when there's real drama planned, oh my God, like if something goes wrong, whether or not it's your fault, they will make an inquisition out of it. Not even my management, upper management. But that's what happens in these, in that type of environment at work. You know, you got people, they want to make meetings and show they're doing things, or maybe like someone else wants to like solve an issue, so they go, oh, we got to do this. It's a big initiative. And you got different people trying to throw different groups under the bus, so it's like all a pissing contest. It's like fun and games. But on a proper quiet Sunday, I like it. And there's some conjecture, of course, like how should you do staffing? But it's like in this environment where people have the right to take any day they want off, you should have maybe like 3 people on staff instead of just 2. But, you know, do you need more than 2 people? If everyone shows up, no. And as long as like you have one guy remaining and the other guy doesn't get sick, but you know, then it becomes a whole rigmarole if you got to find coverage when that isn't the case. And in the city environment, because of like, you know, the budget cuts they've been pushing, because for over a year, even before, I think in post-COVID era, they had to worry about the budget more, but definitely, you know, the whole political, you know, asylum seekers drama, as they phrase it. And look, I mean, like, I'm keeping an open mind on people, but I know people who, you know, went through their effort to, you know, get their citizenship and whatnot, and other people who apparently didn't, and other people who don't have citizenship but they're legally here, okay, you know. Or people who have jobs but are legally here, so apparently it's not illegal enough. Okay, I don't know, I'm just speculating. But I do have a friend, I remember, haven't hung out with him in a while, but he said he was actually from Mexico and that he technically wasn't a citizen, so of course he got more offended by the concept of being illegal. He's like, how can a person be illegal? And it's like, I wasn't going to argue because I was like, trying to be empathizing here, but at the same time, it's like, well, a person can be illegal or undocumented. I mean, by definition, an undocumented person is illegal. For better or for worse, yeah, you're undocumented, you are, you know, that makes you illegal. Or at least your status is not legal. So, I mean, you know, argue whatever you want over semantics. But anyway, I'm not here to rant about that. I don't know, I just try to bring up a random topic. Man, I swear, one of these days, I'm going to be hung by my words on this. I'm going to be like, man, I should have never started that YouTube channel. But jokes aside, there are some interesting, I think, debates on the matter. And the ways to resolve it. Like during the Reagan administration, I think it was a matter, they granted amnesty. And, of course, that made some people unhappy because they said, well, are we rewarding this now? And it's like, well, it's definitely an interesting way to solve the issue at the time, you know? It's like, it's, something was done, at least something was done, you know? Of course, Reagan's administration was a whole can of worms in its own way, considering, I mean, the whole Iran-Contra thing, and he, you know, he's sort of like, you know, he was the first, I don't want to say he was like Biden, because, I mean, you know, he didn't win the election being like Biden. You know, at worst, he'd get questioned by the court and be like, I don't remember. And that might have been true in his case. Or at least it was a good defense, because it's like, how you gonna prove the guy can't remember? He's got that clinical diagnosis there. Yeah, I wish I had the 200 grit sandpaper. I mean, I guess I could pull it out of my desk right now if I really wanted to, but I'm not going to use 100 grit here because there's some panel lines here I don't want to mess up. And I believe this Tuesday, Pop Culture Mechanic is going to have a stream. It's sort of like, you know, Pinky in the Brain. So what are we going to do this Tuesday, Pinky? Do a Trades Talk show, of course. What we do every week. Trades Talk Tuesday. So, yeah, you know, if you're interested in getting into the trades, or you just want to see cool machines, which is half the reason I'm watching, you know, tune into that Tuesday. I think it's like after I get off work, around 8, 9 o'clock, probably closer to 9 on Tuesday. But if you subscribe to his channel, you'll never have to worry. I still haven't made a Slim Name moderator, and it's not for lack of wanting to, it's just out of laziness. But at some point, don't be surprised if a wrench appears next to your name when I get around to doing it. So there you have it. Pop Culture Mechanic confirms that the Tuesday show is on. I made this kid moderator on a whim. I don't even know how old the kid is, but he was like begging to be moderator. And I was like, dude, I am suspicious of you, but if you don't ask to be moderator for a week, I'll make you a mod just because. So he didn't bug me for a week. So I was like, all right, today's your lucky day. And he seemed really excited, so that's cool. But he's like, hey, can you play Roblox? I'm like, think about it. So I tried out Roblox a little bit the other day. It was interesting. I don't know if it's entirely... like, I like Space Engineers. But Roblox was interesting that I might play a little bit, you know, if only to tickle my curiosity or whatever. Okay, that sounds weird, tickle. But you know what I mean. And like in the tutorial to like build a car and put a ramp in front of it. I'm like, hell yeah, build a ramp in front of the car. And then I was driving the car, and it probably would have been easier to drive with the keyboard, because when I went to use my PlayStation 5 controller, it was awful. It was like the car was just way too squirrely. And then I was like, I'm playing this game some other time because this car is way too squirrely. So I got a question. What's up with nuns? Hear me out. So I'm watching some videos. I stumbled into a video of like a monastery. It's like sounds from a monastery. And it's very peaceful and interesting and stuff, you know, and insightful. And plus ancient buildings are really cool. So okay, I'm watching this thing about a monastery. And then I stumbled into a video about nuns, cloister nuns or whatever, right? You know, where they have like that secluded place where the nuns live. I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And it was all great, and I'm happy for them. And, you know, you got young nuns, old nuns, you got ones who look kind of cute. You say, man, I'd take you on a date. Not man, lady, but, you know, and the older ones, and some of them are really sweet, you know, like middle age, whatever. But, like, sometimes when they're talking about Christ, like, and they say him, and it's like, look, yeah, he's a he, I get that, but it just sounds like there's like a sexual undertone in the way they're talking about Christ. And they're like, I do it for him. And it just, like I had nuns in my childhood who mostly weren't like that, right? Like we had like a good cop when I was a kid in CCD class. We had a good cop, bad cop combo. So you had like one nun who like was, you know, like the sweet one, and you had the other one who was generally perceived as mean, but around the holidays and stuff she'd always give out chocolate. But I think they both meant well, you know. It's just like it was a running joke though. It was just like, oh, this one's like kind of like Grr, and that one's like super sweet. And it was kind of funny, you know, and actually I think the combo worked out really well together. They made a good team for like decades. So you know, when I think nuns, you got two types of nuns. You got the ones who act like Nazis, right? Like, you know, they'll chase you down with a yardstick. Then you got the ones who sound, I don't want to say creepy, but their relationship with Christ sounds a little like, you know, a little weird, you know? And so I don't know if anybody could help me out with understanding what's going on, but it would mean a lot to me. Well, I don't know if it would mean a lot to me, but it is a topic of moderate interest. It is. All right, let's see if I'm putting this part together correctly. Well, let's see. Let's look at the picture. So the picture's showing this part has to be facing down as you're putting it on the turret at the same time. It's got a hexagon shape. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, octagon shape. And we got it mounted to the bottom of this. Like this. And then we have a turret that actually rotates. So, I mean, I don't have any desire to offend anyone's Christianity or Catholicism at all. Like, I was born and raised Catholic. I've gone basically down the atheist rabbit hole, and then I'm not back from it so much as I'm more like, if I am an atheist, I'm a tolerant atheist. I'm not going to give anyone shit. Like, you know, like, get the atheist type. They'll hear someone say they're religious, they'll mention God, they'll mention Jesus, and they'll fucking like, they'll jump on it. They'll be like, oh, well, that's not real. Like, they gotta really rain on somebody's parade. Just leave the person alone. You know, like, okay, like, they don't believe what you believe in. Jesus, you're fucking loud. You want to come in for tea? I'm inviting the helicopter pilot in for tea. Give me a second. You want coffee? I think he's good. He's going. Oh, well. But where was I? Hey, what up there, Padawannabe? Is that Padawannabe? Nuns are still normal people and have trauma. Some don't. They just have religious habits. Their minds are still messed up like us normies. Yeah, so that's a factor. And, you know, I could buy that. And in a way, like, I was watching these convent. See, one, I just want to say that, yeah, like, I've evolved past trying to rain on people's parade. They want to believe in Jesus. That's cool. I mean, I do believe in, like, there was a guy named Jesus. No doubt about it. And, I mean, like, how do I phrase it? When I got into astronomy, I got a little bit more open to the whole God thing. Not that because, oh, I see this thing I can't fathom, therefore God exists. It was just more like, there's some wondrous shit out there. So it's like, what do I fucking know? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not going to fight to the death either way on the topic, but it's interesting, you know, and also I kind of like adopted that view because sometimes you get into arguments with people who believe that Earth is flat and space isn't real. And one of their talking points will be like, you know, like basically like, how could space be so unfathomably large? And they'll bitch that somehow having an unfathomably large space is, you know, antithetical to God. And it's like, it doesn't have to be. It does not have to be. You know, he's like, if anything, having, you know, these enormous cosmos and, you know, all this cool stuff in space, why can't it support the whole God thing, you know? I mean, like, you know, like, are you saying that, like, so I guess like one of my arguments to the people who, you know, say that all this space stuff spits in the eye of believing in God, I say to them, are you saying that God is incapable of, you know, making this, or incapable of, like, you know, comprehending these distances? I mean, if anyone could, you know, they say that God is everywhere. So, you know, if God is everywhere, and the cosmos are obscenely large, and God could be everywhere in that environment, then that would seem to support that he's the almighty guy, you know, almighty being. But if you're going to tell me that God can't be everywhere because the cosmos are too big, and therefore the cosmos can't exist or something like that, then you tell me God isn't that powerful. I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like, I don't know, maybe I just like these logic traps, you know? It just fascinates me. So, okay, next part. And if the Padawannabe says, I still believe in, boy, he doesn't say I still believe in. I believe in Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Great Pumpkin. Oh, the Great Pumpkin. Yeah, that's the only one I still believe in. His name is Jack. Jack Skellington. Everyone knows he's like the most realist of them all. I saw Jack Skellington. He was like, eyes keeps it real. And if you're wondering where I got that from, I'm not trying to sound like a racist Aunt Jemima commercial. That was like the Dave Chappelle episode when you had that chick and she's like, it's like about like when keeping it real goes wrong. And so she's like, that girl sleeping with my Jamar. Eyes keeps it real. And she fucking goes and tries to shank the girl or something, bust up her car. And it's like, but little does she know that that lady's, her boyfriend's grandmother is related to a federal employee, and she just vandalized a federal car. So the lady's trying to get vengeance by vandalizing a car, but she's vandalizing a federal car without knowing it. And so now she's in jail. She's like, I keep it real. And I think she still gets into trouble in jail, like, with that mentality. And it's like the segment or the skit is like, when keeping it real goes wrong. Okay, so once again, we're using the glass file to get this nib off here. We'll get a nice close look at that. We're cutting across the diagonal axis to hit that part. I still think God needs a starship. You know, I mean, look. It's like, if we had apostles in space, let's just say, like, humanity was already in space during the Roman Empire. I mean, you know, or during the Spanish conquest of the Americas, let's say they were going to space really early. I mean, to push God to the savages. Remember, like, the goal is to save the souls of the savages. Then, yeah, God does need a starship. Because, you know, the priest on that ship is acting on behalf of God. So I think, like, the hardcore atheists pick fights with, like, anyone, and I think they should focus on the people who, you know, want to argue that space isn't real. You know, pick not the low-hanging fruit, per se. I mean, they are the low-hanging fruit, but at least, like, you know, you can make a good argument, you know. I mean, they can make a good argument either way, philosophically and stuff like that. All right, see you later, Pop Culture Mechanic. Enjoy your dinner, man. But yeah, I like that quote. I don't have those video quotes at all. I really gotta sit down and do that. Like, hit a button and have the computer say, have Captain Kirk pop up on screen. What does God need with a starship? Speaking of Star Trek V, when I went to Freedom Fest in 2017, I watched William Shatner speak. And what did he talk about? Well, he talked about Star Trek V. I didn't actually know he directed it. I don't know why I didn't know that. I'm not one of those people. I mean, sometimes I do, but I often don't read the credits, so I'm only relatively recently getting into that habit. And so Shatner's like explaining that, you know, he directed his movie because they were taking turns at the time, even in odd movies or whatever. And he had some ideas, but he kept compromising his convictions. So the moral of the talk was like, don't compromise your convictions. Like, that was literally the moral of the entire talk. And so Shatner's like, yeah, you know, it's because I compromised my convictions that the movie didn't come out as good as it should have. And all of this stuff. And I mean, I appreciate him being a, you know, practically libertarian, freedom advocating individual. I definitely appreciate that with Shatner. But I'd imagine he didn't have the directing ability or management ability. Although the movie's not that bad. It might even still yet become a cult classic. In a way, it sort of is. But it's that Star Trek movie that not everyone takes seriously, right? You know, it's like, so it is that. But, I mean, it's got its high points. What's up there, Lorenzo? Good to see you, man. It's got its high points. And, look, I mean, no... If you're watching, like, all of the movies back to back, no Star Trek movie viewing is complete without that movie. Like, you go from 1 through 6, you throw in 5 in there. I mean, yeah, you could skip that. If, let's say, you're really in a bust and you want to go and you want to only watch the, quote, good ones, you can do that. You could go straight to, Star Trek 6, basically, 2, 4, 6... Honestly, I do 1, 2, 4, 6. But, you know, even 1 people shit on. Although, I think that's like one movie that I definitely, want to get the 4K enhanced version of. I was going to do that with Lord of the Rings, but I was like, I don't have a 4K TV anyway. I don't plan on getting a 4K monitor. I don't want my GPU being, you know, worked to death handling 4K. But at some point, I might just do that because, you know, I can still, like, scan the movie. I can, like, take screenshots from the movie, I mean. So I can, like, you know, rip the movie to my computer or simply watch it and take screenshots as I'm watching it. So, I mean, that's kind of, like, one of the motivations I would have for getting a 4K edition. And I wanted to do that for Lord of the Rings, but I was like, I don't want to spend, like, that much for Lord of the Rings, whatever it was at the time I was looking it up. So that was, like, the only thing that stopped me. Ooh, we got a serious nib back here that I forgot about. Ooh, that's not kosher. But that's okay, we can fix that up real quick. I don't even know if this is an exposed part. In fact, no, this doesn't look like an exposed part at all, so we only have to sand this down for dimensional accuracy. Thanks, Lorenzo, for posting that link. And yeah, check out Lorenzo's channel on odd weeks or various weeks. He'll do these big group streams where anybody, almost anybody, can show up and promote their channel. I think anybody can show up, basically, but, you know, I'm sure there's, like, restrictions if someone's mean, if they're a dick. Although, I bumped into some mean people there. No, not mean. They weren't mean. Just that one guy who wasn't mean. He was funny. Oh yeah, that gives it. This gives a very interesting texture, but easy to see. Like, I used it on my gray Xeon mobile suit, and it literally gave it like a similar texture to what we see on the sandpaper here. Like, it wasn't quite as rough. It was pretty smooth. It was a smooth rough. Quite bizarre. And that was the day I realized I was supposed to buy both the gray one and the white one, because the gray one is the balancer, the white one is the polisher. Okay, so we got both mobile suit decks assembled. And so, like, I keep putting this together, like, partially, just so I can remove the parts without fighting it. But it's still nice to see it take shape. Yeah, him. Yep, that's the guy. The Flat Earther, which, I ranted about Flat Earth earlier in the stream. I don't know if I should keep doing it. But, basically my rant was, like, along the lines of when a Flat Earther says that, you know, God it is spits in the eye of God. Like, they'll say, like, oh, this universe being really big thing is against God or something like that. And it's like, well, it doesn't have to be against God. I mean, God should be perfectly able to comprehend enormous cosmos. Alright, I got a piece here being a little bit stubborn here. So I'm going to remove the front here in order to see if I can line this up better. And I think it's probably because... honestly, I don't know why. I think it's going in now. I think it's like, this is the part that you can't put on after. You got to put this part on first so that it can be tucked into place. We'll put it together for now. We'll deal with it later. But yeah, so let's see what else we got now. At some point I'll take a break, but figure we get this to a nice level of progress. So okay, luckily we already finished both mobile suit decks, and we're not using the interchangeable metal parts right now because I don't want to lose them. Now we got the mega particle cannon. That's number 5. After that, we got the engine pods. Now, this is where things are going to get complex. So, if I do the mega particle cannons, and I might not do both of them today, but if I do either one of them, I'm definitely not going to progress to step 6 right now, because that will require, I think, just more intricate detail than I'm willing to deal with right now. So let's go back to step 5 and see what we got here. So we got a B10 and a B9. So essentially the B parts runner is duplicate because it's symmetrical. B9, B10, B4. I didn't really, I mean, I'm sure I can get the answer to my question, but I'm going to assemble this because I just want to see how the mega particle cannon works. Is it like interchangeable? And yeah, I guess I can read ahead, but as we're assembling it, we'll get the answer to that question, I guess. Gotta carefully get that. I don't want to mess up the circle. There we go. I was giving that a nice, even, flat sanding there. That's why I was fixating on that. And we got... I'm trying to recall if I ever watched Star Trek V. Wikipedia claims it was inspired by televangelism. Maybe. I could see that actually being part of it because, I mean, that cyborg character is sort of like, you know, an interesting influencer of sorts. But, of course, he had mind tricks. Vulcan mind tricks up his sleeve to make that possible. I've watched Star Trek shows prior to Discovery, but I think I missed some of the movies. Well, Star Trek movies 1 through 6 were very good. I mean, on the whole. And then even the Picard movies, they were okay too. What's up, David Glenn? Yeah, so I'm working on a mobile suit assault carrier model, and so we're currently working on the mega particle cannon mounts, which are like on the side here. And we're making pretty good progress. Right here, I'm almost done sanding the part, and then I'll be able to show what it looks like. Just getting some of the, you know, nub marks off. We probably don't need absolute perfection. Like, I find that because I'm not, you know, I'm going to paint it anyway. I don't need to go worry too much about this sanding. I just need to make sure that there's nothing, you know, sticking out. And that the texture is not completely foobar. But using graduated sanding like this definitely, you know, restores the material to its original state before you, you know, touched it, so to speak, before you started sanding in the first place. So that's sort of like what I'm doing here, is I'm just restoring it. And then now, let's see what we got here. Some of Star Trek Next Generation movies didn't impress me as much as some of the better episodes of the actual show. Fair? No, I mean, it's true, like, Insurrection, that was basically an episode. Star Trek Generations, definitely basically an episode. I mean, it's pretty good on the whole, but it was like, it was a, yeah, I mean, it was, it felt like an episode. I mean, it really did, and, you know, like, they had that scene in Star Trek 7 Generations where they're hanging out in stellar cartography, which is kind of funny because it's like, it looks like it's a giant holographic view screen, so it's like, well, we could do this on the holodeck, can't we? But, they decide to do it there because it's a movie and they gotta, you know, have a cool, you know, room. In fact, from what I understand, that's the only reason they did stellar cartography the way they did in the movie. Was because they wanted to have something more large scale cinematic, right? But it's not something you would find in an episode of Next Generation, because they did go to stellar cartography in an episode of Next Generation, and Picard's girlfriend, I think she became his girlfriend, well, that was an itty bitty room. I remember he's coming into the room and she's like, shit, close that door. And then she's like, ah, shit, I lost my night vision. There goes 3 hours of work. And it's like, wait, you're on a 24th century ship. What do you mean there goes my night vision? You're not even looking out a window of a telescope. Like, why would you need your night vision? Like, I get what they were kind of doing. I think they were doing, like, you know, like, when you do astronomy, that's actually a real thing. So, I get it. During the era, I can see what the writers maybe were trying to borrow from, like, what astronomers dealt with back then. But it's like, it doesn't work on a starship when you're in a room with no windows, because the view screens can adjust however they need to. Unless, of course, everyone's got 2010 vision acuity and they're trying to, like, you know, have screens that represent the outside star field for some weird reason so that everyone can use their mutant eyesight to gauge things. Yeah, Wrath of Khan was definitely up there as one of the best. The best Star Trek movie is Galaxy Quest, David Glenn says. Some people say it is Master and Commander. Interesting. I've never seen Master and Commander. Isn't that movie named too? Isn't that like a Royal Navy movie? I did start reading the Hornblower books a little bit. Those are kind of interesting. Although I did think that Admiral Cornwallis was a little rude to make Horatio Hornblower go out on patrol a day after his wedding. I mean, come on, man. What is that shit? And then, yes, Vash. I think it was Vash. I believe Vash, David Glenn, worked in stellar cartography on Next Generation. Yeah. And then, Lorenzo says, I remember Voyager having a stellar cartography room. I think 7 of 9. Yep. That was actually Astrometrics. But yeah, same shit. The Astrometrics lab. And, you know, they made a big hoopla about upgrading it. And that's why I sometimes name my streams Stellar Cartography, Astrometrics, for kind of like the fun of that. Okay. That was C6. And I think I always need to get another half of that part there. Yeah. Sometimes if you have any doubt, you can just take a part and attach it to the part on the runner to see what happens when you attach them. Last week, I go to bed on Monday. I do my Monday show last week. And I wake up at like, you know, like 4 a.m. when I gotta be up at 5. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll go back to bed now. So I roll over to sleep a bit more. And I wake up like an hour later. I'm like, holy shit. I'm sorry, I don't wake up an hour later. I wake up 3 hours later when I'm supposed to be at work at 7. I'm laying in my bed at 7:17 going... First I wake up, I'm like, oh, it's really bright outside. Check my watch. I'm like, ah, shit. Call my manager. I'm like, hey, this is what happened. I just got up. I'll be right there as soon as possible, pending traffic. Because, you know, traffic is totally a whole other animal. But, you know, no harm done. It was just funny. I haven't done that in a while, so I get like a free pass, I'm sure. Haven't done that with this job. Last time I woke up late for my current job was during when we were working from home. So that worked out because like I was literally like, my boss calls me 10 minutes after the shift starts. I tell him I'll be right downstairs. And I'm like literally logging in within 5 minutes, you know, drinking my coffee. So that was kind of cool. And it's funny, my manager didn't give me a hard time, but he, you know, told me about it. You know, it's like not even that hard, man. I mean, you don't even have to be commuting. And it's like, this is true. But, like I say, no big deal. Does that go base start? Yeah, I think I don't know if they started yet. Well, they did start. Thank you. I'm gonna wrap up very soon. Because I appreciate the hard work that Nick and Coach have been doing. But yeah, so I'm just gonna try to finish this mega particle cannon before I conclude. Oh, wait. What's this? That looks like a rough spot that I need to address. Okay, so let's see if we can match up the picture here. So this would be the left side megaparticle cannon mount, and this would be pointing the megaparticle cannon in the forward direction, if I remember correctly. And then there would be some flaps that we're not going to attach right now, but let's see what we can attach. Maybe there are some parts I can attach right now. I'm going to be careful. I'm not going to press down on any part until I know for certain it belongs where I'm shoving it. So right now that looks like it belongs there. And I'm just taking a guess here. This looks like it goes into this keyed slot like this. Yeah, it actually looks like... Yeah, actually that looks about right. Ah, shit. I see a part I didn't actually do the cleanup work on correctly. I'm going to have to peel this bit off before I'm done. That's going to be a tricky one because that already snapped together pretty nicely. Okay, good. We can clean that up real quick. So since this is a hidden part, we can and you know, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of parts I probably have to remove at some point when I'm painting it, but I'm still willing to assemble it now and see how many parts I can paint in place. Some of the white I might keep in the original shade, and in other patches of white I might, you know, use white paint, like literally white Gundam marker even might get used. But for now, we have one particle cannon mount seemingly assembled according to the pictures. And it looks like at this point I can, you know, like cut off some turrets, but I'm not going to cut off the turret right now. So we're just going to keep this, and there's like a, looks like a cover piece or a series of components that you could remove and attach. This dotted line represents interchangeable parts. So you remove, you put a cover here to make it look like the picture, or you remove the cover and you put a turret in its place. So that's what we're looking at there. We're looking at the ability to change in and out the mega particle mount. Right. So there we go. That's the mobile suit assault carrier Albion, and here's the delicate antenna that I glued back on or reinforced. At this point, I think I'm going to leave it more or less like this. There's one model I'm not gonna bring to work with me because I'm gonna work on this at home unless yeah, I'm gonna work on this at home because it needs some, I think, real special attention. I don't want to mess around with it. Like I can see even over here, like the plastic looks uneven. So when I'm truly ready to like complete it, I'm gonna have to see like how these plastics mesh together and probably sand them down because I am gonna do the gluing technique to get rid of that, you know, that jumping point, so to speak. But anyway, I'm gonna worry about cleaning my desk off camera because that might take me a little while. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and if you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. And for now, and you know, once again, thank you everyone: David Glenn, Lorenzo Sleestack, Pop Culture Mechanic, who else dropped in, Slim Nim, whose link is above, about 10 lines up in the chat if you want to check out his channel. All of you, thank you for hanging out. And with that being said, I'm gonna now legitimately end